Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video we're taking a look at the newest mythical Pokemon in the world of Pokemon Go, Marshadow. These battles were submitted to the channel by a member of the community, NeonLight1997, so many thanks for the battle submission. Marshadow has been released at GoFest Sendai, and will get its public release later this summer during the global GoFest. Marshadow shares the same typing as Annihilate. It's a ghost and fighting type Pokemon, and its moveset is Counter, Ice Punch, and Close Combat. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and let's take a look at Marshadow in action in the Ultra League. Hopping into the first match, quickly moving the Apple Assistive Touch from one side to the other, as we see a great lead Tapu Fini versus Shadow Dragonite. Opponent save switches into Cresselia choosing to overfarm, and because they do so, Tapu Fini will make it to the Nature's Madness. Nature's Madness will connect, getting that guaranteed defense drop, and we see a subsequent switch into the Giratina. Giratina going to be able to withstand double Moonblast as needed, and going to now return fire with the Shadow Sneak. Shadow Sneak, not the strongest move ever, but the damage definitely adds up when a -1 defense has already been applied. Opponent goes for Moonblast number 2. That's going to get Giratina quite low. Can Giratina get the farm down here? Deciding not to risk it. Just going to fire off the Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw is going to pick up the KO, and down goes Cresselia. Dragonite gets almost no farm, and now you can just wait the timer and send back in the Tapu Fini, and the opponent really hasn't gained too much of an advantage. In the back, it's Registeel, and in comes the star of the show, Marshadow. Marshadow building up to the close combat, baiting with the Ice Punch, and grabbing the shield from the Registeel. Let's see this thing's bulk. We are going to see the no shield. Zap Cannon does do quite a lot of damage, so Marshadow not the tankiest Pokemon in the Ultra League. Opponent is going to be firing off another charge attack. Marshadow will commit the shield as Registeel only has to go for the Focus Blast. Marshadow massively overfarming, getting to the back-to-back close combats. Close combat number 1, Registeel is going to no shield. In comes the Dragonite, but Dragonite is now in a lose-lose position. Ice Punch or Nature's Madness, pick your poison. They no shield the Ice Punch. In comes the Tapu Fini, and the opponent concedes the match. Hopping into the next match, leading Tapu Fini into Shadow Gliscor, an incredibly good lead. Opponent is going to save switch into Feraligatr, and even though Tapu Fini is technically a wall 2 energy from Feraligatr, I don't think anyone told Feraligatr that. Feraligatr still does extremely well versus the Tapu Fini. Tapu Fini is going to return fire with the Nature's Madness. Nature's Madness, no shielded by Feraligatr, and a quick switch into Marshadow. Marshadow just going to look to tank a move and farm down, and hopefully leave with the Ice Punch for the Gliscor. Hydro Cannon does so much damage. Marshadow not the tankiest in the Ultra League. It should hopefully be quite a bit tankier in the Master League. Master League is probably where it's going to perform the best. The Ice Punch gets no shielded. Opponent did not know the moveset, and that's going to cost them dearly. In comes Tapu Fini, but in the back, there is a problem, and its name is Greninja. Greninja is going to be able to threaten the Tapu Fini, since the Tapu Fini's already taken quite a lot of damage. Getting to the Nature's Madness, unfortunately a Water Shuriken does go through, and Greninja up energy is very scary. The switch into the Giratina. The nice thing here is the Greninja has been debuffed, which means its already frail bulk is going to be even glassier. Opponent firing off the back-to-back Night Slashes, and oh my goodness, the Giratina has already taken so much damage. Switch Clock should be coming up soon for the opponent. Dragon Claw is shielded. Opponent, there's the timer. They send in the Shadow Gliscor. Giratina in a tough spot. It's forced to commit the final shield and try for the farm down. Giratina does get the farm down, close to the back-to-back moves. Greninja does get the Water Shuriken through as the Dragon Claw is fired. Dragon Claw will connect. Dragon Claw number 2 follows it. This will not KO, but Greninja is rapidly running out of HP. And this is going to be a tough farm down for the Greninja. Greninja attempts it, but is unsuccessful, and Giratina takes the win. Bit of a tricky lead in the next match, leading Tapu Fini versus XL Defense Deoxys. Deoxys just going for a Psycho Boost and dip, not even building up to a potential Thunderbolt. So that's a very comfortable no shield. We are going to see a safe switch into Greedent, and the switch into Marshadow to catch the Body Slam, where it is going to be double resisted. And Greedent is about to have a very bad day against Marshadow. Marshadow has that close combat, which can absolutely shred it with super effective damage. The overfarm by the Marshadow going for the close combat, it connects, and down goes Greedent. In comes Defense Deoxys. Even with the heavily debuffed defense from the close combat, this is still a double resisted counter. It's not going to be easy to farm down. Opponent commits the shield, and we're actually going to see them fire off energy. Honestly, that's great. Marshadow deciding to commit the shield. We see an aggressive switch into the Tapu Fini as the opponent is going to fire off another charge attack. It is going to be the -2 Psycho Boost in the back. It's another Greninja, and Greninja not going to appreciate the fact that Tapu Fini has a massive energy advantage here. Greninja commits the shield, the game stuttering like crazy. Oh no, Greninja goes for the Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon gets Tapu Fini low, but not low enough. Tapu Fini hanging on, making the Moon Blast, knocking out the Greninja. Back in comes Defense Deoxys, but there's nothing Deoxys can do against Giratina Altered. Waiting the timer, allowing the opponent some last brief moments of hope before Giratina enters the field, and the opponent resigns the match. Moving to the next match, and this elo is Greninja City. Oh my goodness, Greninja everywhere. Believe it or not, this used to be a matchup where Tapu Fini lost the 2 shield. However, I imagine with Nature's Madness being cheaper and also coming with the guaranteed debuff, that it does probably help out this matchup. Very nice charge attack timing going for the Nature's Madness. Opponent will commit the shield, but here's where the Nature's Madness can make a difference. Look at the water guns. Those water guns are starting to shred through that Greninja. Greninja goes for the Hydro Cannon. They're already at another Hydro as well. Hydro, not going to be enough to knock out the Fini, but will get the Fini very low. We're going to see an overfarm and just being able to make it to the Nature's Madness. Will they double shield? They will not. Down goes Greninja. In comes Charizard. Charizard up energy, always very scary, but thankfully with a shield advantage, this is honestly not terrible. In comes Giratina. Giratina going to be able to withstand a Shadow Dragon Claw, no problem. Building up to the back-to-back, it is going to be charge attack priority, but again, Giratina does not have to respect this damage. The hope is, if you can get the Charizard out of the way, then the Marshadow will be able to put in work in the endgame. Giratina going for Dragon Claw number 2. Is the opponent going to commit the final shield? The answer is yes. We see a switch into Marshadow. These wing attacks adding up substantially. Marshadow is going to protect against the Dragon Claw. What is the final Pokemon? It's going to be Annihilate. We have the battle of the Ghost and Fighting type Pokemon, but the opponent doesn't build up to a Shadow Ball. They just go for the Night Slash. By not building up to the Shadow Ball, Marshadow does not have to shield. And there's basically no fast move damage available for either Pokemon in this matchup. So even though Marshadow's low, the opponent will have to build up to 2 more Night Slashes. Ice Punch is going to connect. Marshadow, can it get there? Yes, it can! Winning charge attack priority over Annihilate. Ice Punch picks up the KO. In comes the Charizard, and the opponent concedes the match. Tapu Fini sees a terrible lead in the next match as it leads into Registeel. The safe switch to the Giratina. The opponent not switching out, so Giratina will fire off the Shadow Sneak. Shadow Sneak does a little bit of damage, but the important thing is it will help desync the switch timers, which potentially can be taken advantage of later. Registeel goes for the Zap Cannon, fishing for the debuff, and there it is. Giratina's attack stat, already not great, now reduced even further by the Zap Cannon. That Shadow Sneak just does laughable damage. Oh my goodness. Opponent is going to switch out and send in their own Tapu Fini. Tapu Fini down a ton of energy here, but since the damage has been reduced, it's honestly not super threatening. But here's the thing. The switch timers are desynced, as I mentioned, so now you can just save energy on the Giratina, send back in the Tapu Fini. Tapu Fini absorbs a Nature's Madness and will fire off a Nature's Madness of its own. Is the opponent willing to commit a shield? No, they're going to let that through. Opponent firing off a charge attack. Tapu Fini lets it go. It's another Nature's Madness, and that plus the water guns will be enough to KO. Could potentially go for a counter down with Marshadow or just send in Giratina. In comes Giratina. Giratina getting a very nice farm down. Opponent sends in the Registeel, which banked the charge attack for later. Registeel going for the Zap Cannon, fishing for another debuff, and there it is. Oh my goodness. This poor Giratina cannot catch a break. The switch to the Marshadow in the back. It's Typhlosion. Marshadow farming up energy. Nice timing, building up to the close combat, baiting with the Ice Punch. The Ice Punch bait does get the shield. Typhlosion does have quite a lot of energy. Marshadow with a decision to make, going to commit the shield on the Thunder Punch. Opponent farming up. Marshadow going to be able to potentially force the final shield with another Ice Punch. The opponent looking for the farm down. They do get the farm down, but the Shadow Claw goes through. Does the Shadow Claw KO here? If the Shadow Claw KOs, this would be massive. It does not, but the Shadow Claw after does. In comes the Registeel. Registeel spent all game debuffing this Giratina, but Giratina is going to get the last laugh, making it to 2 Shadow Sneaks. The first one gets them low. The second one picks up the KO. and despite a terrible lead, the game ends in a win. We see the neutral lead in the next match, leading the Tapu Fini versus the Alolan Sandslash. Considering there's the Dragon-type Giratina in the back, definitely not a bad thing to catch the Sandslash in the lead. Drill Run is going to connect. Tapu Fini farming up. Opponent has a Marshadow of their own, so we're going to have a battle of Marshadows. Nature's Madness does get shielded. In comes Giratina. Giratina will be hit with a super effective Ice Punch, but Ice Punch not going to do a whole lot of damage. Giratina will be able to farm up quite a bit of energy. Opponent will go for Ice Punch number 2, and Giratina again going to no shield. Giratina is going to get a full farm down, exiting with quite a lot of energy. Opponent sends in the Sandslash, but Sandslash is now going to have to take 2 Shadow Sneaks. Shadow Sneak number 1 will connect, immediately followed by Shadow Sneak number 2, and the Sandslash is suddenly not looking too healthy. Opponent is going to switch out into Golisopod. Golisopod unable to get a farm down before we do see the Dragon Claw reached by the Giratina. A switch back into the Tapu Fini, but the Tapu Fini is taking some decent damage from the Shadow Claws. No shield by the Tapu Fini. It's the liquidation. Can the Golisopod get the farm down? Yes, they can. They get the farm down, exiting with quite a lot of energy, and that is quite scary for the Marshadow. In comes Marshadow. Marshadow is going to commit the shield. Golisopod is baiting with an X-Scissor, and now they're going to get to fire off the liquidation. Marshadow is going to double shield. Opponent is going to full send the liquidation. The switch into the Sandslash. Sandslash unable to make the move. In comes Golisopod, but Marshadow is able to make the back-to-back Ice Punches. Ice Punch is going to be shielded. Firing off Ice Punch number 2. This is resisted, but the Golisopod has taken so much damage. Ice Punch is going to secure the knockout. And in the battle of Marshadows, Neon is able to take the win. We've got a great lead in the next match, Tapu Fini versus Goodra. Although, to be fair, with Thunder Punch now, this might not be as good of a lead as it once was. Tapu Fini is going to no-shield as Goodra is able to outpace. The Thunder Punch is going to connect. Tapu Fini firing off the Nature's Madness. Is the opponent going to shield the first one here? This is super effective damage. They're going to no-shield and switch into Feraligatr. Feraligatr save switch, again, kind of giving this team some trouble. Tapu Fini is going to no-shield. Hydro Cannon will put Tapu Fini deep into the red. Tapu Fini will fire off the Nature's Madness, and once this lands and the debuff has been applied, then we can see a switch out. In comes Marshadow. Marshadow, we've seen this before. It takes a lot of damage from Hydro Cannon, so we will see the shield from the Marshadow. Marshadow going to try for the farm down and getting the farm down thanks to that Nature's Madness debuff. What is the opponent going to send in now? Are they going to send in the Goodra? Because Goodra is going to get hit with Ice Punches. Instead, they're going to send in a Shadow Alolan Muck. Now, that's a Pokemon I haven't thought about in quite some time. We see a switch into the Goodra to catch the Ice Punch. So the opponent pulling off the stack swap, but they're still going to have very limited fast move pressure here. The Ice Punch is going to be shielded. We see the switch into the Tapu Fini attempting a catch, but the catch is unsuccessful. Marshadow still above 25% HP, and it is going to be a charge attack priority tie with the Close Combat. Close Combat does get shielded. At this point, Giratina can win this game because one Shadow Dark Pulse, while doing a lot of damage, will not be enough to KO. They go for an Acid Spray and a farm down, but Giratina is in a range where it can survive the Dark Pulse. So we're going to see the no shield. Obviously, in case they go for an Acid Spray as well, and they do. The opponent going for the Hail Mary win con of an Acid Spray, potentially into a Dark Pulse, but Giratina says no, lands the Dragon Claw, and takes the one-shield victory. We see exact same leads in the next match, Tapu Fini versus Goodra. Tapu Fini loving the fact that Gumi was the most recent community day. Goodra will fire off the Thunder Punch. Immediate no shield from the Tapu Fini. It's super effective damage, but Thunder Punch does not have the highest base power ever. I do think the move is a lot more suited for Goodra in the Great League, just because in the Great League, Thunder Punch, considering the lower overall bulk in the Great League, definitely does feel more threatening, whereas in the Ultra League, we see a Tapu Fini just shaking off 2 Thunder Punches like it's nothing. Tapu Fini fires off Nature's Madness number 2, opponent is gonna no shield, and send in Feraligatr. We see an aggressive counter switch into Marshadow, because Feraligatr, as we've established, is very scary for this team. Hydro Cannon gets shielded. Look at the Shadow Claws, man. Marshadow just getting torn to shreds, my goodness. Ice Punch bait gets no shielded as well. Oh no, Marshadow. Marshadow is going to commit the shield and try and counter down. Feraligatr does not survive the final counter. In the back, opponent has Typhlosion, tried to go for the Close Combat, but unfortunately not quite able to get that damage. In the back, it's going to be the Typhlosion, and that's going to be answered with the Giratina. Dragon Claw is going to be shielded. Giratina making it to another Dragon Claw, and now the question will be, do we see the catch? They're at 100, tried to click on it, but unfortunately the Shadow Claw was triggered there. The Blast Burn will connect, that does a ton of damage, and there's the catch right on cue, catching the move onto the very low health Tapu Fini, and now Giratina gets a very comfortable farm down. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. Hopping into the final match, Tapu Fini versus Greedent. The question will be, is this Greedent on Trailblaze? They farm up to 6. This could be the Trailblaze. Not gonna respect it though, and it is just a Body Slam. That is quite nice. If the opponent isn't on Trailblaze and they're on Crunch, then you definitely need to keep this away from the Giratina at all costs. Nature's Madness connects, and now the Greedent suddenly looks a lot more vulnerable. Its defense has been debuffed and it's in the yellow. Opponent save switches into Shadow Ampharos, and in comes Marshadow. Marshadow going to farm up here, commit the shield, as we're going to see the Brutal Swing fired off by the Ampharos. Marshadow going for the Ice Punch bait and winning charge attack priority over the Ampharos. Ice Punch bait does get the shield. Ampharos returning fire with another Brutal Swing. We're going to see the double shield from Marshadow. Ampharos 3 away from its next Brutal Swing. We're going to see a farm up and a firing of the Ice Punch. Ice Punch, is it going to be enough to KO here? Ice Punch is going to be enough to pick up that knockout. In comes Greedent. Greedent farming up, firing off energy. If it is the Crunch, it's probably going to be enough to KO Marshadow, and it is. Down goes Marshadow. I mean, the Shadow Claws from Giratina are not going to be doing much of anything here. Gonna send in the Giratina, farm up, go for the Dragon Claw, but lose charge attack priority. And this means that a super effective Crunch is going to connect, and Giratina is losing valuable HP. This Dragon Claw, will it be shielded? Opponent is going to shield up the Greedent. Greedent will be outpaced here unless they switch, and there's the attempted switch. They send in Virizion. Virizion getting outpaced. Nature's Madness, massive damage onto Virizion. Virizion farming up a lot of energy. They will be able to pick up the knockout with a Sacred Sword or a Leaf Blade. They are running Leaf Blade and Sacred Sword, and now in comes Giratina. As long as Giratina does get the double up here, this is going to be a win. The Leaf Blade isn't going to do a whole lot, and there it is. The back-to-back Dragon Claws reached because the opponent has a Body Slam loaded. They don't have a Crunch. So in comes the Greedent trying to get to the Crunch, but they cannot get there. Dragon Claw KOs Greedent and takes the win. All in all, Marshadow has an incredibly cool type, being a fighting ghost, and its moveset of Counter, Ice Punch, Close Combat, I really feel like does it justice. Where I do think it can struggle is purely just off the fact that Annihilape exists, a Pokemon with an identical typing, but that has Shadow Ball. That means that if Marshadow is ever stuck against Annihilape, Annihilape can pick up a one-hit KO with a Shadow Ball, whereas the Marshadow is stuck going for Ice Punches where you need 3 to knock out. I am very excited, however, for the implications of Marshadow in the Open Master League. Marshadow does get over 4,200 CP, so I'm going to try and save up my Rare Candy XL between now and GoFest NYC to hopefully be able to power it up as close to level 50 as I can, because this thing looks to be very fun in Masters. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.